Good evening. Welcome to the March 20th regular meeting of the Town of Orange Planning and Zoning Commission. Before we begin tonight's meeting, I'd like to point out the location of our emergency exits. The first one is on the halfway through the building on my right and your left, where most of us come in and out of. The remaining two are in the hallway, again to my right and your left. The first one immediately upon the left after entering the hallway, the second one at the end of the hallway. I'd like to ask those seated at the table to introduce themselves.
Paul Denise, zoning officer.
Ozzie Parenti.
Judy Smith Morgan.
And I'm Walter Clark. The first item on tonight's agenda is a discussion with the Economic Development Corporation, Director Paul Grimmer, to discuss possible study concerning economic development and zoning in the Edison Road area. Paul, would you like to, you could probably give it a better description than I.
Sure. Good evening, everybody. Just as a recap, a few years ago, the Orange Economic Development Corporation received a $500,000 grant from the state of Connecticut to undertake economic development activities up in and around Edison Road. That grant was designed to help us engineer and design the extension of Edison Road, along with acquiring the land necessary to give the town the right-of-way for those properties. So we purchased two properties. We purchased approximately 2 acres from Stu Leonard's and then we also purchased, I think, 0.75 acres from Ernest Cozacrio, so that now the town has the road from where it ends on Edison Road all the way out to Marsh Hill Road. One of the benefits that we've had is we came in under budget, and which leaves us in the fortuitous spot of having approximately $58,000 to $60,000 left over, so that we can undertake other economic development activities in that area. So we've been thinking about what types of projects can we undertake, the corporation that is undertake, to best utilize those remaining funds. And no matter what we do, we're always hearing about the zoning, the zoning, the zoning. And what I wanted to make available to the Town Plan and Zoning Commission is the opportunity to utilize that $58,000 to $60,000 yourself to study and evaluate the existing zoning, to identify areas that you might be able to strengthen those regulations in lieu of the possible expansion of Edison Road, the taking advantage of the other activities such as the train station coming in to the community, also analyzing what effect the development on Indian River Road might have. So what I would propose is providing those funds to the commission to hire your own engineer or consulting company so that you can evaluate this potential. The one thing, one of the things that we've talked about is it needs to be in and around Edison Road, so I don't envision this being an all-encompassing plan, to take it from Milford to West Haven and analyzing the commercial corridor. But it would be an excellent opportunity for the town to evaluate independently what you see, what you like, what changes you might like to see, and take advantage of things that might be coming, in a year to 5 years down the road, instead of always having to react afterwards. I think it'll give the town a very good handle on future development for the area.
Yes, Paul and I met with First Selectman Jim Zioli about a week and a half ago to discuss this matter. And as he mentioned, there's 3 major developments going on up there: the extension of the Edison Road to Marsh Hill Road, the train station is coming in, and also we have Stu Leonard's coming there. So we've got 3 major developments that are going to impact that area one way or the other. When Paul first asked me about this, he asked me to think of three issues that we wanted to, or any number of issues actually that we wanted to address. And those were the three that I came up with. How can we promote and maximize the benefits of the Edison Road extension? How can we promote and maximize the benefits of the railroad station? And how can we either maximize the benefits or minimize the negatives of the Stu Leonard's going into that area? These are three major developments. This would be kind of a joint project between the Economic Development Corporation and our board. The funding has to come through you to us, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, what we would end up doing is, I don't want to look at it, think about it more as we're helping to sponsor the opportunity for the commission to do what it is they need to do for the best interests of the community. Of course, my board would like to have some input as to, how this happens, but the zoning commission would be the guide as to who you hire, the time frame, specific ideas that you want to put forward, and we are here to support the commission in how they want to go forward.
And one additional benefit of this is this also comes, the results of this study will come at a time just prior to our redoing the plan of conservation and development. So we'll be able to have that input and that data without having to pay for it ourselves, obviously, because it will come through the grant. Are there any other issues that you can think of that you would like to be looked into at this time?
Excuse me. What about the grant allows this to happen? Was it was for more than the engineering and the right-of-way purchases?
Well, when we initially identified the project, we expected the land acquisitions to cost a little bit more. Specifically, we also budgeted additional funds for engineering and design that we didn't have to pay. We basically came in under budget, so it left us with a little pot of money at the end that we could really do one of two things: is use for another activity, or B, give it back to the state of Connecticut. And it's so hard to get this money in the first place, it would be a shame not to find something to do. The only caveat is it needs to be utilized in an activity that has something to do with Edison Road. And that extension of Edison Road, with the possibility of Stu Leonard's coming in, you look at Avalon across the street and the vacant business office park across the other street of Marsh Hill Road. There's a how should I say this? There's a lot of things that will affect economic development coming forward, and this really gives us an opportunity to be out in front of it. And not only the train station is a half a mile, from the Stu Leonard site. So I mean that in itself will provide a very big impact and have an incredible amount of benefit for the community, if and when that happens.
And I think, as Paul pointed out, this gives us an opportunity to be kind of ahead of the curve instead of reacting to opportunities that come along. This can give us a direction to go and actually try to draw the opportunities towards us. So I think at this point, we need a vote from the commission to request he proceed with the grant? Is that how we proceed with this matter, Paul? Would you?
I don't know if a vote. I don't know if a vote is needed, but you can reach a consensus, or probably you would draw up a mission statement as far as what the ideas you wanted to do. Maybe discuss it at a future meeting.
Yeah. Well, I think the ideas the good thing about this is because I think if we identify these three areas right here, that really encompasses a broad spectrum. I mean, as Paul mentioned, the business office park across the street. Well, that's certainly tied to the activities on Edison Road, Stu Leonard's, and the railroad station. So while we have to direct it to the Edison Road or around the Edison Road extension, there's no argument that these things are all interrelated. So I think we can enter it with these questions for the study, and then as the study proceeds, we can kind of direct it in a more specific direction as the areas become identified, I guess I should say.
And I think Mr. Denise has a very good handle on it. We may want to just cultivate this a little bit more and come together with a very clear-cut, defined mission statement, for lack of a better word, to see where we go forward. The state of Connecticut is going to ask us, well, what's your goals? What are your objectives? And I don't know if we want to go in with just a paragraph worth of, well, we like to do this and maybe look about it this way. I think doing a mission statement, whether it be 1 or 2 pages or 6 pages, would be good for when you want to go out and hire somebody. You know, it'll help us develop a a request for proposal, and give the state of Connecticut a clear-cut, defined plan of action from the town and the Plan and Zoning Commission. I think that those are a couple things that the state of Connecticut is going to want to see. And while we have these funds available, the state of Connecticut really has to approve the project. So we don't want to go in with just a piece of paper in our pocket and say this is our laundry list of ideas. I think, and we're not in a hurry that we have to do this today. But I would like to see something happen relatively soon. Whether or not you want to take 2 weeks and meet at your next meeting with something a little bit more defined would be fine.
I think that's a good idea, and in the meantime, I can put together a more defined statement, and I can have the town planner, Mr. Miller, look at that statement as well. And I'm sure he's related. He's dealt with this type of issue before, so he can probably refine it. And then we'll have it, and we can look at it all at our next meeting, and then refer it to Mr. Grimmer. Anybody in agreement with that, or?
As a member of the corporation who's thinking about sending the money this way, is there no other uses that the corporation sees for that money that they want to send it over to zoning? There's nothing that they have on their horizon?
We have talked about it among the executive committee for the last couple months. And specifically at this last meeting, we talked about it in a much greater detail. I think everybody across the board is comfortable with this idea and believes that for the long-term effectiveness of what we want to do to help the community, I think we all believe that this is probably a very good activity. Something very, very similar. What are our options? Well, one of the things that the town engineer has identified is placing a traffic light at the end of Edison Road and Prindle Hill Road, with a possibility of extending a turn lane in there to help Pez trucks in and out of the building, in and out of there. That's a very possible, very possible thought. Is it the best use of those funds? That actual activity might very well come from this study that you're planning on doing. And while we think it's a good idea, long term, we think that a more global approach to analyzing the whole area is probably better than just a single target project.
And as you said, that's something that could be developed out of the study anyway.
Right.
I just want to try to understand it. This study, would it contemplate maybe a special zoning district in this area where what would come out of this study is the zoning regulations applicable to this particular district, done in a way that promotes the the economic the enterprise that you anticipate.
Right.
Hope to
I don't
attract.
necessarily think that you're looking at simply creating a special zoning district. I think this gives you an opportunity to see how your LI3 flows with your LI1 and your LI2, and whether or not future activities on Edison Road will impact the ability to access the business office park. I think it's a way for you to look at it. I keep using this word, but look at it globally to see how everything interacts. You may come to a decision where you want to extend the LI3 zone. You may decide that you want to create a special overlay zone, or actually change the zoning up where the train station is. It'll give you an opportunity to analyze other areas of the state, like what they're doing down in the Fairfield, what Fairfield's doing with their train stations, to gather some ideas. So I think any changes in zoning really would come back to this commission to make that determination. I don't think the corporation is looking to make that determination for you. I think we want to be able to put it in your hands so that you can do what's best for your community.
It could very well end up in us deciding that we need to tweak our zoning, either areas or regulations, or it could lead us the opposite direction.
Yeah, I mean, pursuant to some plan, as opposed to responding to a particular application that
Absolutely.
comes in,
Right.
piecemeal before the board.
Absolutely, yeah. That's the major benefit that I see of it. We'd be responding to a plan as opposed to responding to an application, which I think is always preferable. So unless anybody else has any questions, I'll work on a letter. Perhaps I'll go over with Paul as well, and we'll forward it to Mr. Miller and get his input and come up with something a little bit more refined, and hopefully get it to you by next at the conclusion of our next meeting.
That'd be terrific. When is your next meeting? Just as
April 2nd, is it?
I believe it's April 4th. It's a Wednesday because
Okay.
of Passover.
That's right. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much,
All right,
Paul.
you're quite welcome.
Take care.
Okay.
The next item on tonight's agenda is the petition to amend the Orange zoning regulations to amend Section 383-50G and Section 383-143.3. Public hearing was closed on this at our last meeting. This is the petition that would allow car washes under the regulations that were proposed. We've talked over this quite a few times. We had the comments from the town planner, Mr. Miller, and to be honest with you, my opinion on this hasn't really changed. I just don't see this being a benefit to the town. We have the prior regulation that the commission found necessary to put this in the area of prohibited uses. It wasn't a gray area. It was specifically noted in the prohibited uses. As Ozzy pointed out, most of those prohibited uses had environmental concerns with it. And lacking any substantive need to change it or reason given to change it, I think we have to respect the wisdom of our predecessors, and I don't see any compelling reason to reverse the standing that they set up on this. I don't know how the rest of the commissioners feel about this. And quite frankly, if this was a good use, I don't think we'd want to have it that restrictive as we have it now.
I sort of took a look at that. The one question that occurred to me first was, why are car washes prohibited? And I don't. And the thing is, it's not that they're prohibited just in that zoning district. They're either not a permitted use, prohibited, or not mentioned at all in every other zoning district in the town. I don't know why that is.
Yeah.
And of course, if it's not mentioned specifically as a permitted use, then
Exactly.
it's prohibited.
Yes.
So there are. Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, but if I took a look
No,
at it
you're
today, I
right.
don't think there's anywhere in town where you are permitted to have, as of right or by special use,
That's correct.
a car wash. There's got to be some reason for that, and I'm not sure what it is.
Well, I think the reason is because of stacking, because you could have 30, 40 cars in line, which usually go into the street. That's, I think, the main reason.
I think there's probably that and the environmental concerns. I know that there's ways to address the environmental concerns, but you can never get fully clear of them. And that's kind of the way I looked at it. Lacking a compelling reason to change that regulation, which I did not see demonstrated during the public hearing. And even if I took a look at the gas stations, which we allow under restrictive conditions, and even there, we limit those to, I think they have to be 2,500 feet apart. And if we were to impose a similar restriction, it wouldn't allow one on this side anyway, because there is one almost diagonally across the street. There's a car wash from this location.
One of the restrictions they added in their proposed regulations talked about a building of at least 100,000 square feet. So it's like you're changing the regulations just to suit this one particular applicant.
Yes.
You know, really, you know, for all intents and purposes. If car washes were a good idea, say, on the post road, then wouldn't you want to, you know, adopt a regulation that under the right conditions would allow it?
Yeah,
you
and that's
know,
another
as a-
concern, like, as
you
I
know.
said, if this is a good use, why would we want to have it so restrictive? We might want to make it less restrictive and expand them. And again, I don't think that was brought out at all during the public hearing. That's my feeling on the issue. I just don't see that it's a benefit to the town. You know, in viewing it from the post road, I went down there on a few occasions. Really, what you would see is the gas station and a car wash. The Sam's would actually be somewhat hidden. It would be obscured behind the gas station and the car wash.
Car washes aren't that high.
No, but you're going to have a berm there, because don't forget it was going to be hidden, because that was their answer
Right.
to the proposal to have the doors facing the post road, in contradiction to Mr. Miller's request or suggestion that the doors not be facing the public roadway. They were going to have a berm, the height of the doors, or at least high enough to impede the vision of the doors along that way. So that's going to block out approximately half of that parking lot in viewing the Sam's. You know, and then you have the gas station. So you'd be looking at a berm, a gas station, and the Sam's would be obscured behind both. And again, it just seems kind of a haphazard way to develop, you know, to have things, you know, somewhat put in the middle of a parking lot again. You know, perhaps sometime down the road we might look at this in a different way. I mean, I don't think any of us could have envisioned or would have envisioned gas stations going in supermarket parking lots like is fairly common now. We had the gas station go in here. I don't think anybody really would have envisioned a gas station going in the parking lot of any retail store, you know, a large retail store 10 years ago. A few years from now, we may revisit this and we may have a different opinion. But at this point, at least my opinion is that I don't think it's a good use for the town.
And just as you were saying, you know, years ago, we didn't envision gas stations as accessory uses to large retail stores. I don't feel that this is where Orange should be on the cutting edge
No.
of putting a car wash, you know, with a retail use. Clearly it would benefit the Sam's Club members, and clearly it would benefit the corporation. I'm sympathetic. I'd like to see them continue to do well. But our charge is the health, safety, welfare, the benefit of the entire town. We have to be consistent with the comprehensive plan of development. And I didn't find evidence in the record that would compel me to approve this amendment.
Ozzy, any other? No. Rick? Would anybody care to make a motion on this matter then?
Yeah, I'd be prepared to make a motion. I would move that we deny the petition to amend the Orange zoning regulations to permit car washes by special use in the commercial C2 district submitted by Sam's Club and Wares Delaware Corp.
We have a motion. Would anybody care to second it?
Second?
All those in favor of this denial signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-1. Next item on tonight's agenda is a review of the minutes from the March 6, 2007 meeting. I have only one correction, and I'm not actually sure if it's a correction to Paul. On page 2, in the third full paragraph, it says Mr. D stated that he would be sending out a lot of correspondence regarding zoning violations and that he would speak to the management company of the Fisk property. I believe that was that you did speak with him because you...
Yeah, I did speak.
Okay, so that should be changed from would to did. And those were the only changes that I noticed. Anything, Judy? Rick? Would anybody care to make a motion
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the March 6, 2007 meeting.
as amended?
As amended.
We have a motion.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Passes 4-0. At this time, we're going to skip the items 4, 5, and 6, and move on to our public hearing. These are continued, so there's no need to read the legal notice. And the first one is Mr. Gordon. This is the application for a special exception permit or use submitted by property owners Angelo and Mafalda Gotti for 555 Boston Post Road. This is to locate a drive-through window and donut shop at that location.
Well, good evening. Again, my name is Jeffrey Gordon. I'm president of Codispodi and Associates, 504 Boston Post Road here in the town of Orange. And what I've brought with me tonight are some modified drawings to reflect the comments from the previous public hearing, and also to address some other information that I was made aware of today. One of the things I just wanted to go on the record, I did send Mr. Denise the state DOT letter with their points, so he should have that in the file, those points that I had addressed about the width of the driveways and things of that nature. The plans that you see in front of you today show a restriping of the entire front parking lot, a concrete curbed island in front of the Dunkin' Donuts drive-through side of the parking, and we've adjusted the island on the extreme right-hand or northbound side of the front area. And in doing so, we actually had to relocate one of the handicap parking spaces, and what's happened is that one was moved from over in front of the Dunkin' Donuts to right over here. In the center, I usually don't like to put them across the way, but I couldn't fit them in with that restriping. I did check with Mr. Trotta, and he said the fact that we had 3 spaces up against the building, he had no problem with the 4th one being opposite there. Rather than trying to squeeze it in over here by Dunkin' Donuts, since there's a ramp already built in over there, I put it opposite the ramp so people would have a more proximate access. I feel with the drive-through window will serve the handicapped very well here. That would be one of the best things that could give them good accessibility to their wishes and the coffee and whatnot. Also, we added the pipe rail. I have a 3-foot-high pipe rail barrier to prevent anyone from walking across the sidewalk into the traffic exiting from the drive-through. And we still have, we have a few shrubs right in that little bump out there just to motivate people not to think that they can go straight there. If they don't see the curb, they'll see the shrubs in front of them. Also, what we were asked to do is to, I guess Paul went back to Scott Allen regarding the swale that is in the back, and he expressed that there could be the possibility of additional oils getting into that area. So what I've done on the oh, by the way, on sheet SP2, there is the striping detail that Mr. Lieberman asked for on the front lower left corner, the parking striping. That detail is added onto the plan. And what I've done on sheet SP3, where the leak off is in the back, we've added at the end of that a vegetated biofilter swale. This is basically to have a variety of grasses in there, which if any deleterious material were to come off of any cars queuing in that area, that would be absorbed in the grasses. But probably of greater note, and I'm going to, after I kind of go through the numbers here, I'm going to submit this for your information. We're adding in that area for that drive-through lane 1,249 square feet of impervious area. But along the same line with this development, we're removing in various areas 159 square feet of impervious, 265 square feet of impervious, 546 square feet of impervious, 549 square feet of impervious, and 1,398 square feet of impervious surface. So while there's an addition of 1,249 for the drive-through lane, there's a reduction of 2,917 square feet throughout the rest of the property. So there's a net removal of 1,668 square feet, or 2.2% of the site is going to be rendered pervious, where now it's impervious. So that's going to be a net reduction in runoff, a net reduction in any kind of possibility of any kind of deleterious materials going anywhere. So in this kind of area, that's really about the best that I can do. There's no grade where I could put any kind of structures in, but the natural filter swale, and there's a detail of that in the lower left-hand corner, is really a natural way of dealing with it. So I'll just submit this sheet here. Has in the upper left-hand corner, it has the chart with all those areas on it, so Paul can have a better record of that.
So did Scott approve the biofilter swale?
Scott's not available for
Okay.
a while.
Yeah.
So he's not aware of that you're
No, I
proposing?
mean, I got the phone call today, and then there was no way of getting in touch with Scott, so I did what I could under the circumstances, and I think that, you know, as we reason on this, reducing the impervious automatically reduces the risk, and then adding the swale with the vegetation is an additional measure that would be effective.
Jeff, there was also a question on some of the lighting in the front. Have you, there you go.
Well, wait, there's more. For the good or bad of this, the way to solve this issue is going to actually reduce the amount of lights that are added. We're going to concentrate on the lighting around the back, and then we're going to be putting wall packs on the side of the building. So these are, that's the new lighting plan there, and very difficult to have no spillage when you have light poles that are right on the property line, which is what we were forced to do in the front. Otherwise, I'd have to have the spaces in the middle of the parking spaces off the line there, and that would run a risk. So what we're left with is the lights that are in the soffit of the building, which do project outwards, and maybe at some future day, if the owner of the building decides to do some improvements to the building, we'll have an opportunity to work with the lighting on the building a little bit more than what we can do today. So that was really the one thing we could do to make sure there was no light spillage.
Paul, do you feel that that we could take an action on this with this subject to Scott's approval or Scott and Red's approval, or do you think it's better to wait until, because
I would have felt comfortable if Scott could at least take a look at it.
Yeah.
It's hard, and I feel for the applicant because, you know, it was a little late getting back to him, but you know, it might be okay. You know, there's limited things that you can do there, but you know, if Scott had a concern, it would preferably, you know, if he was here today, I'd run it.
Yeah.
Be able to run it
I
by
think
him.
the problem with, if we took that approach too, was if Scott wanted some changes, then we would close the public hearing and we couldn't accept those changes. In lieu of that, I think our hands are kind of tied until Scott can give us an opinion on this.
What is the topography, Jeff, of the rear of the property? Does it drop off?
Well, no, actually, it goes up quite a bit, but there's that swale that had been cut in on the left-hand side there. So what we're looking to do is to put in some fabric, to put a mixture of a sand soil mix in there, and then put in grasses that we're sure will make it nice and ugly, but will give the water something to filter through as it goes on out there. But again, as I mentioned before, the biggest benefit is the actual reduction in paving on the site.
What does the commission wish to do?
Well, were they about to get ready to do the work here, or?
Well, the
what was
public
the
hearing would
timeframe?
have to be continued to get, yeah, not to get Scott's input because he is a staff member, but in order for Mr. Gordon to address any issues that Scott may or may not have. In other words, if Scott came through and said, if we were to close the public hearing this evening, and Scott said, no, I don't like this, Mr. Gordon would have to go back to square one because the public hearing would be closed, and if he wanted to resubmit another plan or a way to address this issue, that would set him back. So we have two options. We can,
He would be just submitting a plan to amend the existing plan, right? Presumably.
Yes, but it would still have to be a new application, correct, Paul, or no?
It's not a new application, it would just be another revision based on Scott's comments.
Doesn't usually wetlands sign off first before he comes here?
He did.
Well, I mean, I'm just,
He did.
He signed off, and then, I asked about that swale, and he said he would like to look at it. And then,
So he was satisfied with it as it was designed before. So this, I take it, is likely to be something that
I don't want to put words in his mouth.
well, I was saying, I mean, it enhances any protection.
I believe when he signed off on it, because Paul and I both spoke to him at the same time, and he really hadn't considered that swale, I guess is the best way to put it. When he signed off, he just signed off and really hadn't given thought to that swale, Paul? Would you say that's an accurate description?
That's correct, yes.
And then when I mentioned it to him, then he said he would like to take a further look at it. And as Mr. Gordon pointed out, there wasn't any correspondence between the two, and Scott is out now. Mr. Gordon got late notice on the whole ball of wax here. So,
If this were delayed to our next meeting, how would that affect, plans with respect to construction on the site, or?
I don't know what the contractual arrangement is. I know after a while, they have to start paying rent if they go forward, so you get to that fish or cut bait time on these.
They have the right to get out of their contract to lease out of their lease if they can't get the zoning approvals by a certain time, or?
Right, and after that, they usually have to start paying rent. It goes solid as a lease at that point. I'm not sure what the arrangement is. I wouldn't want to speculate.
Do we know Scott's time frame for his ability to review?
I think he'll be able to comment on it probably next week sometime. I'd drive out to his house if he wasn't in it. I mean, it's not all that complicated.
and Mr. Gordon has addressed all the other issues that were brought to our attention at the last meeting. He's addressed all of those. This is the one outstanding issue, and unfortunately, the staff member who really needs to give us our okay isn't available. I think it's probably a cleaner way to proceed to have Scott look at it and then just go from there. We've addressed. I don't think the commission. Does the commission have any other questions or concerns with regard to the other issues that Mr. Gordon addressed at this meeting?
If we approved it, subject to his review and approval on this one particular issue,
Yes.
it would be the applicant's risk if they had to come back. So I mean, why couldn't we approve it now with that condition?
But
If that's satisfactory to the applicant, that they have to take that risk if they, for whatever procedural reason, they had to come back to the commission.
Rick, did you have a comment?
well, I mean, the only thing I could see if it came back to wetlands, because I mean, this thing go to wetlands. If he asked for some type of oil water separator to grab the oil before it went into that biofilter, some type of catch basin with a hood or something.
You don't have the grade there to do that. That's
No.
why it's a leak off.
Right.
Paul?
I think it's an unfortunate circumstance, but at the same time, the public hearing was only started March 6th. It's not that there's a huge delay on this, but it was just a matter of circumstance. It was with Scott having surgery, and he was at the doctor's a few times last week. I approached him early on, but it just might be the prudent thing to do is to carry it over to the next meeting.
Yeah, that's
You
kind
see,
of
if there's a determination that it's just an insignificant change and it doesn't have to go to wetlands, fine. That's probably the way it's going to go. But I can't speak for Scott. If we get to the point where a structure's put in, now does it have to officially go back to wetlands, or that's the concern.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to go that way, but I can't answer for Scott.
Yeah. You know, I agree with you. I think that, you know, obviously, if he overlooked it to begin with, he's usually fairly thorough, so I don't think it's going to be a big issue. My guess is that he's going to approve what Mr. Gordon has laid out. But I think the prudent way is to wait and get his official comment on it, you know, just to be on the safe side. We're sorry to drag you through this, Jeff.
Yeah, it is what it is.
But at least now you only have one other issue. Yeah, or non-issue, yes. Does the commission agree with that approach?
And we will just be sure that we get the information to Scott so that we can take an action in 2 weeks.
Early on next week.
Okay. And ask him to get back to Mr. Gordon promptly so that if any other changes are required, that gives the applicant time to get this resolved before the next meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
The next item on tonight's agenda is an application for special exception permit or use submitted by Central Post Associates for property known as 377 Boston Post Road. Would the applicant like to come forward?
Brian Bowser from Stake Street Development Group. We made some changes from the last meeting, which I have on the site plan here. I added in the vehicles as you requested from where the proposed drive-through window is, and I stacked the vehicles in order as they would be. Locating the drive-through menu board in the back, which would be on a cement slab with the curbing that comes around to the corner of the building. The gas meters are going to be relocated from the corner of the rear of the building to inside the back part of the building. If you notice, it's around 5.5 feet in from the side, and there's also a door which you also requested to be put in for the rear second exit and exiting the building.
Brian, I don't see the door shown on the plan. Is this is the one that came to?
Which one? I gave you this for. Which one do you?
This is the one that was in our packet, the revision.
Yeah, I gave that.
Okay,
copy
it is on
and that
there?
are the two new revisions.
Okay.
This one.
Okay. Do you have one there?
Yeah, this was last week's, or actually this was for review. This is the one I gave Paul,
Okay.
but then I had all the changes.
Okay.
The front is located right in the front over here. The existing, and the back is put right there. And we also have we've talked with Tim from the fire marshal and had him come out to the location, which I've given last meeting. I have given a paper showing that he was approving it, not approving it, but in favor of it if the meter was moved. We met at the location.
Okay, but do you have a letter or a memo from the fire marshal?
I have given it to Paul. It was in the file. It was in the file when I submitted it. I had Tim come out to the location and showed him exactly where everything was going to be, and he met with the plumbers that were going to be doing the relocation of the gas pipe, and showed him exactly what was done. It was to his approval. I did meet with Fred and as well as Paul.
So, in this review copy, the gas meter was quite a ways in. When you met, I'm assuming with the gas company?
The gas company.
They moved it over here to the
They moved it to
corner
that,
block?
and they met with Tim to show exactly the location because they wanted it a certain distance away from the electrical, the meter.
Okay.
Which had to be a certain distance from that. So that's where it is now is okay with Tim as well as the gas company.
Okay, and they approved the protection bollards there?
Correct. originally had 3, and then Tim said to put another couple when it comes around, and it protected perfectly along with the curbing, and so on. And then we also in the back, I also talked with the owner of the property from Colonial Properties, and with Derek, our engineer, who has researched and looked at the location, had removed 4 spaces that we had a discussion last time when we were talking about the 4 spaces would be perfect to be removed, and that was okayed by Colonial Properties, who are the owner of the premises, which would allow the cars to order with one behind it, allowing for no one to back up or anything into the oncoming cars there. But everything fits, and we also did the curbing over here, so it kind of cues the cars going into the direction. I also have a stop sign located at the end and a 3-foot rail going from the building to the post, so it would stop any customers walking out of the front door going into the oncoming car, so it would stop that. And also from I mentioned last time, we capped off that and we moved everything like you wanted, and I think everything here is what you requested from last time, and I think it would be a good thing for the community.
Paul, did you find that notice from Tim?
I've got the original sign-off prior to the last meeting. That's what I have.
Prior to this, so you don't have a sign off on this location of the meter?
Nothing after the last meeting date.
Okay.
Oh, I correct myself. I had a sign off from Tim, but I have a letter from the gas company is what I submitted to you. Not a letter from Tim, a letter from the gas company saying that it's possible to be relocated. And as of Tim, I didn't have a letter from the fire marshal. I was confused. I thought it was from.
Now we need to get Tim's approval of that, correct? I think that was one of the stipulations we put last week. I thought that Tim approved the relocation of the gas meter, and also you do have a letter from the gas company.
That's in the file.
Okay, that's in the file. I think we need to get the fire marshal's written okay on that, because as it stands now, he hasn't signed off on this plan. Is that correct, Paul?
The only sign-off we have is from the prior meeting where he's saying that the gas meters have to be relocated to the rear and that a second door should be installed in the back of the building.
And we did do the second door, and I did have Tim come out to the location on Monday afternoon, and he actually looked at the Friday afternoon, and he looked at the location and show exactly where it was, and he met with the plumbers, showing exactly how the pipe was going to be coming through the building and putting it down exactly where it was supposed to be. I didn't know I needed a letter from the last meeting from him. I just thought that finding the actual location would be approved by him and the gas company.
Because he gave his approval pending 2 conditions.
And I actually, after I met with him, I came and met with Paul and showed him everything, and also Fred, I showed him everything.
The building inspector.
Building inspector.
The building inspector saw the meter in this location and was satisfied with it?
It sounds like the fire marshal was just, he wasn't specific as to where in the back of the
Right,
building. He just wanted it away from the side,
correct,
back, and it's now located in the back. So.
Okay.
And you said that there was some further communication with the fire marshal?
This past, yes,
Site visit.
Precise location?
correct, exactly. Because he was actually, this revision was revised today by Derek, but I did meet with him with the plumbers, and I actually said exactly where it's going to be and the location of the door where it was going to be, and that was the best with the distance from the utility boxes. And everything fit to right where it was, and with the 6 poles going from the corner over and the curbing, he felt that was above and beyond.
That was Fred, Tim's?
Tim, correct.
So is it important to get anything further from Tim then to confirm that for the?
Well, I
for
think
the
I think we
record,
can
or-
make it subject to confirmation of this meeting. I had a question too regarding these parking spaces. Now we removed the 4, and I think it was Ozzy's concern about people being able to, Judy's, people being able to back up. What if you were to angle these remaining spaces?
That's possible, if that's,
Do you see what I mean on that? Because you still have, you have one car shown in the queue here. But if there is more than one car, then you still have that same problem.
Well, they have a large excess number of spaces. You could possibly contemplate removing the whole row.
we have, there's 99 in total after removing these 4.
And you need 55.
And we need 53, so we have above and beyond.
But Paul,
The
didn't you
amount of
mention that there
spaces.
might be a parking agreement between an adjacent neighbor and this?
There is a parking agreement, rather, with regard to the interconnections.
Okay.
Yeah. This site is in excess of parking by a substantial amount. It's,
I would like to see those removed or at least angled to give more room than to just one car.
As leaving them in there, that's fine. I can angle them. It's not a problem. It's just a point of just restriping that area, and putting them on a slight angle, which would that's not an issue.
Keep
We're
the
not-
4 that are going to be
Removed.
removed.
Okay.
And then angle the rest.
That shouldn't be an issue because that would
It gives you a little bit more space. Plus, it cuts down the radius required to turn.
return.
And it does give you a little bit more space there.
That's fine.
Would you angle the ones on top?
I think the ones on top you could leave as is because there's ample
And
room
just
in there.
we're next to the 4 that removed. Just
Yeah, that's my thought.
that's
Where the gas meter is in the back.
correct.
Right? There's no electric service back there, is there?
The electric service is in the back by the dumpsters by the 99's entrance. Actually,
Not your dumpster.
This in no, this their electrical, the electrical box for the building is right somewhere in this area over here for them.
Okay. And is there bollards in front of the transformer right now? Do you know?
Against the building,
No,
no,
the
but over here there's the big
I know the green
Yeah,
box.
the green box,
But
and
is
there's
there a
all
is there
yeah, they're all around
bollards?
that, correct.
Okay. No, since the cars are going straight towards it.
Yeah, no, they're all there's about 6 of them there.
I also like to see the bollards for the gas meter inside the concrete curb, not on the outside.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because you have them drawn on the outside, but when you go to plow and stuff, it's gonna be a pain.
No problem.
Just keep them back like 6 inches.
6 inches inside the curbing.
Right, so the mirror won't hit it or something like that.
So the curving. So we have the 3 issues that the bollards be moved inside of the curbing, the striping on these spaces be angled, and a letter from the
Tim.
fire marshal confirming that he has reviewed and agreed to and accepted this location of the gas meter and the corresponding bollards.
This this platform in the back, you're making a concrete
Correct.
mat.
Yep.
Does the commission have any other concerns?
Just, I'm not convinced on the angling of the
Okay.
parking spots. For the uniformity of the site, I don't know if that would be confusing to the patrons. And what have we done by angling them into that travel lane? Is there still plenty of clearance? You see where you have your arrows?
From here, there's plenty of room now with the way they are, but just
To the right of that even, to the right?
over here. Yeah, there's plenty. So with them angled, it would
I think what Judy's saying is that if they're angled, then they're going to be directed towards the cars over here. Is that what your concern is? Yeah, okay, I see what you're saying.
You
might
may have
have-
to cut out the last space there.
like the last 2 spaces out. So exactly.
If you didn't want to, have the space go into this travel lane to the right of the.
So maybe cut out the last one and angle.
I think the problem comes from it, if we have cars coming around this corner, if you have cars parked here, there's clearly a problem with circulation. You know, you would in effect have one narrow lane there. So either we eliminate them altogether.
Or we can make them employee parking, where it's not a constant flow of cars that are leaving customer-wise, and we can, you know,
Yeah.
designate them as an employee parking section for 99 employees as well as Stake Streets, and then they're there for a period of a shift, and it wouldn't be an issue as of so, and we can maybe label them, or maybe
They would have to be labeled. In some
labeled
fashion.
for employees parking, because there's, like you said, there's more than enough parking in the area.
That works for me. Okay. Does the commission have any other questions or concerns? Is there anybody from the audience that would like to address this issue? Good night. There being none, is there any other information that we would like to get, or can we close the public hearing? Would anybody care to make a motion to close the public hearing?
And move we close the public hearing.
We have a motion. Would anybody care to second it? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Public hearing is now closed. Is anybody from the commission prepared to make a motion on this matter? Or would you like to discuss it further?
I'll make a motion to approve site plan submitted. The date, what's the date on this? That's the plan.
Yeah, we'd say motion.
Submitted by Central Post Associates for property known as 377 Boston Post Road. It's proposed to construct a drive-through service window for Stake Street Restaurant. A site plan application for, I guess you guys don't know
It's
my
an
dates.
application for special exception permit or use.
Okay. With the following conditions, as mentioned, was
The
The
bollards
bollards?
be moved to inside the curbing.
right.
The parking spaces in question, Paul knows which ones they
Labeled
are, be
employee.
labeled for employee use only.
And a confirmation letter from the fire marshal.
Correct.
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes 4-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes our public hearing portion of tonight's meeting. And we'll go back to item number 4, which is old business. Does anybody have any issues under old business? I have one. Paul, you had sent me a fax regarding the letter from one property owner to the other regarding the trash down on the Fisk property. Any confirmation of that? Did they get approval to put that dumpster on the other property?
They've gotten approval. I just want a signature though from Jason Rigitelli, who's the property manager.
Okay.
And as soon as I get that, I'll inform Dean Fisk, and he'll put the dumpster on the property.
Okay. I'd really like to have this resolved by our next meeting if we could. You know, and I think that gives them ample time. The weather should be clearing, and they should be able to move forward.
I'll give
on
Jason
it.
a call tomorrow on that.
Great. Thank you very much, Paul. Does anybody else have anything under old business? The next item is new business. Any issues under new business? There being none, we'll move on to the report of the zoning enforcement officer.
As far as construction is concerned, with the recent snowfall, it's kind of slowed up. I was out at Springbrook Commons today, and things are still proceeding there, but slowed down, and at Sunrise Hill Estates. One of the most important things, I think you have a letter in front of you, and that letter is from Brown Rudnick, representing the Sprint Mobile cellular company. and they're proposing to put a cellular tower up on what's known as 281 Dogburn Road in West Haven. It's also known as Goldman Road. It's a little confusing because we have a Dogwood Road that extends into Orange. But there's a plastics factory located on that road, and this cell tower butts right up against the back of it. In my review of the plans, it looks like it's going to be a pretty substantial tower, and probably with regard to any of the other towers that we have in our community, it's closer to a larger concentration of residential homes. So I'm assuming we might want to comment on that. And I know the first Selectman's office got a copy of that today. I have two full extra copies of full complete plans if any of the commission members want it. But probably what we should do is at least talk it over with our town attorney and maybe Jim as to how to approach this and solicit any comments that we might get.
Clearly at 140 feet, it will be visible to the
Well,
residents.
you know, the problem is that the residential homes that are closest to this, unlike the other cell tower locations, tower above it, and they're going to look, rather than, they're going to be kind of looking down at it. It's kind of, I don't know, I don't know how they locate these things, but it's kind of a strange location in that it's the low point in the area rather than the high point.
Yeah.
When you look at it, the Boston Post Road to the northeast is higher, and then the Howelton Road area, with all the residential development, is higher. So I don't know how they arrive at these things, but you know.
I think your suggestion is well taken, Paul, that I can consult with the first selectman and the town attorney to see what, what avenues we have at all to try to protect the citizens of Orange from something that's going to be unsightly right in their backyard. And then you can take this up at our next meeting.
You know, just initially looking at our standards and how we arrive at cellular tower locations, that probably wouldn't be one that would be picked. So,
Yeah.
you know, if it were an Orange.
And there must be something, because otherwise they wouldn't have taken the time to send this over to us. So there must be something in the statutes requesting the requirement to do this. So I think we'll look into it and see what action we can take, as I said, to try to protect the town of Orange and its residents. Anything else?
No, I don't have anything else.
Well, we don't have Paul here to make the motion. So would anybody else care to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second it.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Meeting adjourned.